A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to this class of science. Dear students, today we are going to learn the next part of the chapter materials, metals and non-metals. At the end of this part, you will be able to discuss various chemical properties of metals and non-metals. In addition to this, you will be able to explore different uses of metals and non-metals. Before we start, let's recapitulate the key points of previous part. Materials are categorized into metals and non-metals. The various physical properties of metals and non-metals are hardness, luster, malleability, ductility, sonority and heat and electricity conduction. Metals are lustrous, whereas non-metals have no luster. Generally, metals are malleable and ductile. Non-metals do not have these properties. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity, but non-metals are poor conductors. So, now it is time that we talk about the chemical properties of metals and non-metals. We will see how these metals and non-metals react when they come in contact with some other chemical substance, how that reaction happens and how these reactions are different in metals and non-metals. That is what we are going to discuss in chemical properties of metals and non-metals. First of all, let us talk about how metals react with oxygen. Where is oxygen present? Oxygen is present in air. So, if the metal is exposed to air, it should react with oxygen. Let us see how exactly it happens. Reaction with oxygen. All metals combine with oxygen to form metallic oxides. You had performed an activity in class 7th of burning a magnesium ribbon in air. Now recall that activity of burning of magnesium. In this activity, you have to take a magnesium ribbon and burn it into the presence of oxygen. So, it will react with oxygen. What do you get? You obtain ash. The ash which you obtain is actually nothing but magnesium oxide. We can show this with the help of a reaction. You can take examples of other metals. In copper, copper reacts with oxygen to form copper oxide. Aluminium also reacts with oxygen to form aluminium oxide. So, all the metals will form metal oxides when they react with oxygen. Let us take the example of rusting. Have you ever seen that when some iron object is kept outside, exposed to air and water for a long time, rusting takes place? You will see on that iron object some reddish brown colored layer will be there on surface. This is called rust, which is formed due to the reaction of iron with oxygen in presence of water. We can show the formation of rust with the help of an equation. Now you have to complete this reaction. The next question that comes to our mind is, are these metal oxides acidic or basic in nature. How do we test whether a particular substance is acidic or basic in nature? We will follow the simple litmus test that we have studied in class 7th. There are two types of litmus paper which are available. One is called red litmus, the other one is blue litmus. You have to dip the litmus paper into the solution of metal oxide, and based on the change of color you can see whether the solution is acidic or basic. Red litmus changes into blue in case of bases. Blue litmus changes into red in case of acids. So, how do we prepare a solution for litmus test? We will mix these with water to prepare solution. When the red litmus is dipped into the solution of metal oxides, it will turn into blue. This shows that metallic oxides are basic in nature. Now, what about non-metals? What happens when non-metals are exposed to air? Non-metals also combine with oxygen to form non-metallic oxides. Let us take some examples of non-metals. Sulfur combines with oxygen to form sulfur dioxide, which is a gas. Carbon combines with oxygen to form carbon dioxide, which is again a gas. Now, our next question again is going to be whether these oxides are acidic or basic in nature. For that again, we will follow the same litmus test, and for that we need a solution. So, how do we prepare a solution? We will mix these with water to prepare a solution. When sulfur dioxide is mixed with water, it forms sulfurous acid. Similarly, when carbon dioxide combines with water, it forms carbonic acid. And then it is found that they convert blue litmus into red, which shows that non-metallic oxides are acidic in nature. This is another difference between the behavior of metals and non-metals. Metallic oxides are basic in nature. Non-metallic oxides are acidic in nature. Now we are going to talk about reaction of metals with water. Let us see how do metals react with water. Under normal conditions, metals react with water to produce metal hydroxides and hydrogen gas is released. Let us take some examples of metals. Sodium. Sodium is very reactive metal. It reacts vigorously with water to form sodium hydroxide. Do you know sodium and potassium are stored in kerosene? Why is it so? They are very reactive metals. They react vigorously with oxygen and water. They catches fire easily because a lot of heat is generated in the reaction. That's why they are stored in kerosene. It doesn't mean that all metals react vigorously with water. Calcium reacts with water to form calcium hydroxide and hydrogen gas will be released. But in this case, the reaction is not as violent as sodium or potassium. Less amount of heat energy is released during this reaction. Iron also reacts with water very slowly to produce iron oxide, which is also known as ferric oxide. This is how metals react with water. Now let us see how do non-metals react with water. Generally, non-metals do not react with water. Some non-metals which are very reactive in air are stored in water. For example, phosphorus is a very reactive non-metal. It catches fire if exposed to air. To prevent the contact of phosphorus with atmospheric oxygen, it is stored in water. Now we will see how metals react with acids. Here we will see different metals react with different acids differently. So if you take the same metal with different acids, the reactions will be different, and if you take the same acids for different metals, the reaction will be different. Basically, it depends on which particular metal is reacting with which particular acid. Recall the names of some acids that we have studied in class 7th. Sulfuric acid, nitric acid, hydrochloric acid. Let us take some examples of metals reacting with acids. Magnesium. When magnesium reacts with dilute hydrochloric acid, it forms a salt, that is magnesium chloride, and hydrogen gas is released. Now, this reaction might not hold true for all the metals because of low reactivity. If you talk about copper, copper does not react with dilute hydrochloric acid. When magnesium reacts with dilute nitric acid, it forms a salt, that is magnesium nitrate, and hydrogen gas is released. But if the nitric acid is concentrated, then nitrogen dioxide gas is released. What about reaction of non-metals with acids? You will be surprised to know that non-metals do not react with acids. It's time to see how metals react with bases. Some metals react with bases to form salt and hydrogen gas is released. Recall the names of some bases that we have studied in class 7th. Aluminium hydroxide, sodium hydroxide, magnesium hydroxide. When metals react with bases, they will produce hydrogen gas and form a metal salt. In this reaction, zinc reacts with sodium hydroxide to form a metal salt and hydrogen gas is released. Reaction of non-metals with bases. Reaction of non-metals with bases are very complex. You will study them in your higher classes. You have seen so far that hydrogen gas is released during various reactions. How will you test the presence of hydrogen gas? When a lighted matchstick is brought near the mouth of test tube, it will make a pop sound. Through this test, we can find out hydrogen gas is released. Besides these chemical reactions, metals also show the property of displacement reactions. We can see a displacement reaction here, in which one metal is displacing another metal from its compound. These reactions give better evidence about the reactivity of metals because so far we have seen that some metals vigorously react with water, some metals react with water very slowly. There are some metals which do not react with water at all. There are some metals which catches fire easily in air, while others do not show so much reactivity. A more reactive metal can displace a less reactive metal, but a less reactive metal cannot displace a more reactive metal. Let us see this. In this reaction, iron, being more reactive than copper, displaces it and produces ferrous sulfate. Now we can see that there is no change in this reaction because copper is less reactive than zinc and a less reactive metal cannot replace a more reactive metal. Likewise, iron is less reactive than zinc. That's why there is no change in this reaction. Similarly, copper is less reactive than iron. Now, can you guess the sequence of various metals according to their reactivity? Let's see a video for better understanding of this concept.
We saw that elements cannot be clearly classified into metals and non-metals based on their physical properties. Will chemical properties help? Let's understand chemical properties of metals first. When we're looking at chemical properties of metals, there are a few things we will look at. We will see what happens when metals are burnt in air, when metals react with water, when metals react with acids, and lastly, when metals react with solutions of other metal salts. Now in all these four categories, there's just one simple thing we will do. We will look at how reactive the metals are. If the metals react easily, may it be with oxygen or air or anything else, we say that they are more reactive. When it's more difficult for them to react, we say that they are less reactive. Let's focus on the first category. Metals burnt in air. The most important points to note here is that almost all metals react with oxygen to form metal oxides. These metal oxides that are formed are usually basic, but they can also be amphoteric. What do we mean by amphoteric? Metal oxides which may show acidic as well as basic behaviors are known as amphoteric oxides. Most metal oxides are insoluble in water, but some may also dissolve to form alkalis. Okay, so metal oxides being formed in one thing, but do all metals react with oxygen at the same rate? Not really. Different metals show different levels of reactivity towards oxygen. Alkali metals such as sodium and potassium react vigorously with oxygen. In fact, they react even if they are just kept in the open, that is, at room temperature. They don't even need fire to ignite the reaction. What about the other metals? Metals such as magnesium, aluminium, zinc and lead also react with oxygen at room temperature, but they react a bit differently. When they react with oxygen, their surfaces get covered with a thin protective layer of oxide. This layer protects the inner part from being oxidized. What about iron? Iron doesn't burn on heating, but iron fillings burn vigorously after being heated. And which metals do we have at the end of the spectrum? Yes, silver and gold. Can you guess how they react with oxygen when burnt? Silver and gold do not react with oxygen at all. Yes, they don't react even at high temperatures. So we see somewhat of a pattern event amongst the metals. Sodium and potassium are more reactive, whereas magnesium is relatively less reactive. But wait, burning in oxygen doesn't really help us to decide about the reactivity of zinc, iron, lead or copper. All we know about these four is that they form a thin layer of oxide around the metals. So just this category of burning metals in air isn't enough for us to judge the order of reactivity of these metals. We can see a few more reactions to judge the order of reactivity. We take the same sample of metals to check out how they react with water. Don't forget our basic aim, to find out the order of reactivity of these metals. If a metal reacts more vigorously with water, then it is said to be more reactive than the one that doesn't react as much. In general, metals react with water to form metal oxides and hydrogen gas. And if the metal oxide formed is soluble in water, it will dissolve to further form metal hydroxide. So how can we judge the order of reactivity based on their reaction with water? We perform a simple task. First, we take a beaker half filled with cold water and see how the metals react with it. Some of the metals will react with cold water, but most of them won't. Out of those metals which didn't react with cold water, we try to add them to hot water and see how they react. Again, some will react with hot water and some won't. Those that don't react with hot water, we see how they react with steam. And that will kind of give us the order of reactivity. Ones which react easily with cold water are more reactive, and the ones which required steam to react are not as reactive. Metals like sodium or potassium react violently with cold water. In cases of these two metals, the reaction is so violent that the evolved hydrogen immediately catches fire. The equations look like this. This hydrogen catches fire immediately after the reaction. That's how vigorous the reaction is. So we know that sodium and potassium are very reactive. Remember, we're still talking about reaction with cold water. How does calcium react with cold water? Well, calcium does react with cold water, but the reaction is not as violent as what we'd seen with potassium and sodium. The heat is not enough for the hydrogen to catch fire. But what happens is that the calcium starts floating because bubbles of hydrogen gas formed stick to the surface of the metal. And magnesium? Does it react with cold water? No, it doesn't. But magnesium reacts with hot water to form magnesium hydroxide and hydrogen gas. And just like calcium, it starts floating due to the bubbles of hydrogen gas sticking to its surface. The remaining metals we see here don't react with hot or cold water. But aluminium, iron and zinc react with steam to form metal oxide and hydrogen. And the other metals like lead, copper, silver and gold don't react with water at all.
Till now, we have learned that what the physical and chemical properties of metals and non-metals are. Now, let's move on another important topic. What are the uses of these metals and non-metals? As we know that metals are hard in nature, so they are used in making machinery, automobiles, aeroplanes, trains and satellites. They are also used for making industrial gadgets, cooking utensils, water boilers, heating devices and ringing bells. Now we are going to see some uses of non-metals. You have to guess the name of non-metal for the following use. I am sure that you will guess them right. A non-metal is essential for our life, which all living beings inhale during breathing. Can you guess the name of that non-metal? Yes, it is oxygen. Non-metals are used in fertilizers to enhance the growth of plants. Can you guess their names? Yes, nitrogen and phosphorus. A non-metal is used in the purple colored solution which is applied on wounds as an antiseptic. It is none other than iodine. A non-metal is used in water purification process. Can you guess the name of that non-metal? Yes, it is chlorine. Some non-metals are used in crackers. Now you have to find the names of those known metals which are used in crackers. Let's see a video together for better understanding of this concept.
Now that we've learned so much about metals and non-metals, I'm sure you must have guessed a few important applications for both. If you're asked for the uses of metals and non-metals, don't you think the list would be too long to note down? Yes, but we will still try listing a few important uses in general. Let us begin with the metals first. Can you tell me the most important physical properties of metals? Yes, luster, ductility, malleability, conduction of heat, and sonority. So can we mention a few uses based on these properties? The fact that they are lustrous makes them useful for making jewelry. Yes, metals are lustrous, which means they generally shine. We can also make wires out of metals due to their ductile nature. And what if we beat the metals with a heavy hammer? We don't have to worry. They are hard enough to not break. Also, the fact that they are malleable can help us form thin sheets out of the metal that is hammered. And where do we use their property of conduction of heat? Yes, we can make kitchen utensils out of metals so that cooking becomes possible and convenient. Also, the bells used for conveying messages in various forms are made out of metals due to their sonorous nature. Now, can we say that metals are used in almost every commodity that we use in daily life? Absolutely. So are metals more important than non-metals? Not really. Even non-metals play a major role in our daily lives. Just imagine if we had no oxygen in the air. There would be no life. Not only this, but several important processes like purification of water and synthesis of important chemicals employ many non-metals. Many fertilizers and even pesticides are made out of non-metals. Non-metals have an extremely important use in medicine as well. Do you know the purple-colored solution that is applied on wounds? Yes, that antiseptic solution contains iodine, which has germicidal properties. So yes, metals and non-metals both play extremely important roles in making our lives better in their own different ways.
It's time for you to note down the key points. What have we learnt today? On burning, metals react with oxygen to produce metal oxides, which are basic in nature. Non-metals react with oxygen to produce non-metallic oxides, which are acidic in nature. Some metals react with water to produce metal hydroxides and hydrogen gas. Generally, non-metals do not react with water. Metals react with acids and produce metal salts and hydrogen gas. Generally, non-metals do not react with acids. Some metals react with bases to produce hydrogen gas. More reactive metals displace less reactive metals from their compounds in aqueous solutions. Metals and non-metals are used widely in everyday life. It's time to note down your home assignment. Question number 1. Fill in the blanks. A. Phosphorus is a very dash non-metal. B. Metals are conductors of heat and dash. C. Iron is dash reactive than copper. D. Metals react with acids to produce dash gas. Question number 2. Mark T if the statement is true and F if it is false. A. Generally, non-metals react with acids. B. Sodium is a very reactive metal. C. Copper displaces zinc from zinc sulfate solution. D. Coal can be drawn into wires. Question number 3. Give reasons for the following. A. Aluminium foils are used to wrap food items. B. Immersion rods for heating liquids are made up of metallic substances. C. Copper cannot displace zinc from its salt solution. D. Sodium and potassium are stored in kerosene. Question number 4. Can you store lemon pickle in an aluminium utensil? Explain. Question number 5. Match the substances given in column A with their uses given in column B. Column A. Gold, iron, aluminium, carbon, copper, mercury. Column B. Thermometers, electric wire, wrapping food, jewelry, machinery, fuel. Question number 6. What happens when A. Dilute sulfuric acid is poured on a copper plate? B. Iron nails are placed in copper sulfate solution. Write word equations of the reactions involved. Question number 7. Saloni took a piece of burning charcoal and collected the gas evolved in a test tube. A. How will she find the nature of the gas? B. Write down word equations of all the reactions taking place in this process. Question number 8. One day, Rita went to a jeweler's shop with her mother. Her mother gave an old gold jewelry to the goldsmith to polish. Next day, when they brought the jewelry back, they found that there was a slight loss in its weight. Can you suggest a reason for the loss in weight? Dear students, today we have completed this chapter. Thank you for giving your valuable time. Stay healthy and keep learning. Have a nice day.